Have you ever noticed how exhausting it is to keep holding on? We hold on to people who have already changed. We hold on to memories that can never return. We hold on to plans that no longer fit the life unfolding before us. And perhaps most of all, we hold on to the hope that if we just try a little harder, worry a little more, or control a little better, everything will finally fall into place. Yet what if the very thing keeping you from peace is not what you have lost, but what you refuse to release? This is one of the deepest insights found in Buddhist wisdom. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come only from pain itself. Much of our suffering comes from attachment, the constant desire for life to be different from what it is. We want pleasant moments to last forever. We want painful moments to disappear immediately. We want the people we love to remain unchanged. We want the future to unfold according to our plans. But life has never worked that way. Everything in this world is in motion. The seasons change without asking for permission. Rivers never stop flowing. The sun rises and sets every day, reminding us that endings are inseparable from new beginnings. Even our own thoughts are constantly changing. The person you were 5 years ago is not the same person sitting here today. Every experience, every challenge, and every joyful moment has quietly shaped you into someone new. If change is the natural rhythm of life, why do we fight it so fiercely? The answer is surprisingly simple. We confuse holding on with safety. The mind believes that if it can hold tightly enough, nothing important will ever be lost. It whispers that if we keep thinking about the past, we can somehow protect it. If we worry enough about tomorrow, we can prevent disappointment. If we control every detail, life will finally become predictable. For a brief moment, this illusion feels comforting, but only for a brief moment. Soon, the effort itself becomes the burden. Imagine trying to hold water in your hands. At first, you close your fingers gently. Then, afraid of losing even a single drop, you squeeze harder and harder. Yet the tighter you grip, the faster the water escapes between your fingers. Your hands become tense. Your arms grow tired. And eventually, you realize that all your effort could never stop water from flowing according to its nature. Life often behaves in exactly the same way. The more tightly we cling to people, circumstances, expectations, or even our own ideas of how life should unfold, the more anxiety we create. We become afraid of change because change threatens everything we have tried so desperately to preserve. Instead of enjoying the present moment, we spend our days protecting an imagined future or mourning a past that no longer exists. Without realizing it, we begin carrying invisible weight. Some people carry the weight of old regrets. They replay the same mistakes over and over, believing they should have chosen differently years ago. Others carry resentment, refusing to forgive because they fear letting go means approving of what happened. Many carry endless worry, convinced that if they stop thinking about every possible problem, life will somehow fall apart. But none of these burdens make life easier. They simply make the journey heavier. The Buddha never asked us to stop caring. He never taught indifference or emotional distance. Instead, he invited us to care without clinging. There is a profound difference between these two ways of living. When we cling, fear quietly follows us everywhere. We become afraid of losing the people we love. We fear failure because our identity depends upon success. We resist change because we believe happiness can exist only under certain conditions. But when we learn to appreciate life without trying to possess it, something remarkable begins to happen. Gratitude replaces fear. Presence replaces anxiety. We begin enjoying each moment for what it is, instead of desperately trying to make it last forever. Think of a bird resting on the branch of a tree. The bird does not spend the entire day worrying whether the branch will break. Its confidence comes not from the branch itself, but from trusting its own wings. Human beings often do the opposite. We place all our trust in external circumstances, our relationships, careers, possessions, or plans. When any of these begin to change, we feel as though our entire world is collapsing. Buddhist wisdom gently reminds us that true peace has never come from controlling the branch. It comes from strengthening the wings. Perhaps there is something in your own life that you have been holding on to for far too long. Maybe it is a relationship that has already run its course. Maybe it is an old version of yourself that no longer exists. Perhaps it is a dream that once brought you joy, but now only brings disappointment because life has taken you in a different direction. There is no need to force yourself to let go today. Simply notice what you are carrying. Notice how much energy it requires. Notice whether it still brings peace or whether it has quietly become a source of suffering. Awareness is always the first step on the Buddhist path. Before anything can change, we must first see clearly what is already happening within us. The moment you recognize the weight you have been carrying is the moment you create the possibility of putting it down. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the hidden cost of trying to control life and discover why the harder we try to force everything into place, the further we move away from the peace we have been seeking all along. Once we begin to see how attachment creates suffering, another question naturally arises. If holding on brings us so much pain, why do we keep doing it? The answer lies in one simple desire that every human being shares. We all want to feel safe. From childhood, we learn that planning ahead prevents mistakes, working harder brings success, and being careful protects us from disappointment. These lessons are valuable, but over time the mind quietly transforms them into something else. It begins to believe that if we can control enough of life, we can avoid suffering altogether. This is where the illusion begins. We try to control how people feel about us. We try to predict every possible outcome before making a decision. We rehearse conversations that have not happened yet. We worry about tomorrow while barely noticing today. Little by little, control becomes a habit, and that habit slowly steals our peace. The Buddha understood this tendency long before modern psychology gave it a name. He observed that the human mind is constantly reaching beyond the present moment. It clings to pleasant memories, resists painful experiences, and anxiously imagines countless futures that may never arrive. The problem is not planning for tomorrow. The problem is believing that enough planning can remove all uncertainty. Life has never offered such a promise. Imagine standing on the shore, watching the tide come in. No matter how determined you are, you cannot command the ocean to stop. You cannot ask the waves to rise only when it is convenient for you. The sea follows its own rhythm, just as life follows its own rhythm. Yet many of us spend years standing at the edge of that ocean, frustrated that reality refuses to obey our expectations. How much energy do we lose fighting battles that were never ours to win? Think about the last time you couldn't sleep because your mind kept replaying the same worries. Perhaps you imagined every possible outcome of an important conversation. Maybe you feared losing someone you loved. Or perhaps you convinced yourself that if you just thought about the problem long enough, you would finally find the perfect solution. Did all that worrying change the future? Or did it simply rob you of the peace that was available in that moment? This is the hidden cost of trying to control life. It asks us to sacrifice today's peace in exchange for tomorrow's certainty, yet certainty never arrives. As soon as one problem disappears, the mind quickly creates another. One fear is replaced by the next. One achievement gives birth to another expectation. The cycle continues endlessly because the mind believes peace always exists somewhere in the future. Buddhist wisdom gently invites us to question this belief. What if peace is not something waiting at the end of perfect circumstances? What if peace is only possible when we stop demanding that life become perfect? There is an old story about a farmer walking through his fields during a severe drought. Every day he looked toward the sky, wishing for rain. He became so consumed by what was missing that he stopped noticing the healthy trees still growing near the river. He neglected the crops he could still care for because his attention remained fixed on what he could not control. Many of us live the same way. We become so focused on changing other people that we forget to care for our own hearts. We become so obsessed with future success that we miss today's quiet joys. We spend so much time trying to avoid uncertainty that we never truly experience life. The Buddha never taught passivity. Letting go does not mean giving up responsibility or refusing to make wise decisions. Instead, it means recognizing the difference between what belongs within our control and what does not. You can choose your words, but not how others interpret them. You can act with kindness, but you cannot force someone to appreciate it. You can work with dedication, but you cannot guarantee every outcome. When we accept this truth, something remarkable begins to happen. Our energy naturally returns to the present moment. Instead of exhausting ourselves trying to manage the entire universe, we focus on the one place where meaningful change is always possible, our own mind. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. At first, you barely notice the weight. But as the journey continues, each step becomes more difficult. Eventually, someone asks why you are carrying so many stones. You look inside the bag and realize that most of them were never necessary. They were simply collected out of fear that you might need them someday. Control often works the same way. We carry unnecessary worries. We carry imagined disasters. We carry impossible expectations. We carry the belief that everything depends on us. The weight becomes so familiar that we forget life can be lived differently. The beautiful message of Buddhist wisdom is not that life will suddenly become easy once you let go. Storms will still come, people will still change, plans will still unfold in unexpected ways. But when you stop fighting every wave, you discover that you have far more strength to navigate the journey itself. Perhaps real freedom does not come from controlling the river. Perhaps it comes from learning how to flow with it. As you sit quietly for a moment, ask yourself one gentle question. What is one thing you have been trying to control that has only brought you more stress? Simply noticing the answer is enough. Awareness always comes before transformation. In the next part of our journey, we will explore why letting go feels so frightening and uncover the deeper fears that keep us holding on long after life is inviting us to move forward. As we continue this journey, one important question naturally comes to mind. If letting go brings peace, why does it feel so difficult? Why do we continue holding on to people who have already changed, dreams that no longer belong to us, and painful memories that keep reopening old wounds? The answer is not because we enjoy suffering. It is because the human mind often mistakes attachment for security. We believe that holding on protects us, even when it is the very thing causing our pain. From the moment we are young, we begin building a picture of how life should unfold. We imagine the people who will stay beside us forever, the goals we hope to achieve, and the future we believe is waiting for us. There is nothing wrong with having dreams or making plans. The difficulty begins when we believe that our happiness depends entirely on those plans becoming reality. When life takes a different path, we do not simply lose an expectation. We feel as though we have lost a part of ourselves. The Buddha taught that this attachment is one of the deepest roots of suffering. We become attached not only to people and possessions, but also to ideas, identities, and expectations. We begin believing that our worth depends on our success, our relationships, or the opinions of others. Over time, these beliefs become so familiar that we stop questioning them. We simply accept them as truth. Imagine an actor who has played the same role on stage for many years. Every night the audience applauds, and every night the actor steps into the same character. After a long time, the line between the role and the real person begins to blur. One day the performance ends, the stage grows quiet, and the costume is taken away. Suddenly the actor feels lost, not because life has ended, but because the role has become their identity. Many of us experience something similar. We become so attached to being someone's partner, someone's parent, someone's employee, or someone's friend that we forget there is a deeper self beneath every role. When one chapter closes, we panic because we no longer recognize who we are without it. In reality, life has not taken away our true self. It has only removed one of the many roles we temporarily played. This is why letting go can feel so frightening. It is not always the loss itself that hurts. Often, it is the uncertainty that follows. The mind dislikes empty spaces because it immediately tries to fill them with fear. It begins asking endless questions. What if I never find happiness again? What if I made the wrong decision? What if everything falls apart? These questions feel convincing, yet they are simply thoughts about a future that does not exist. Think about a traveler walking through a dense forest. As evening approaches, the path ahead becomes difficult to see. Instead of trusting that the trail continues, the traveler becomes frightened because the destination is hidden by darkness. Yet the path has not disappeared. It simply cannot be seen all at once. Life often unfolds in exactly the same way. We want to see every step before taking the first one, but wisdom grows by walking forward even when the entire journey is not yet visible. Another reason we struggle to let go is because we confuse acceptance with surrender. Many people believe that accepting change means giving up or admitting defeat. Buddhist wisdom teaches something very different. Acceptance is not saying that everything is fair or pleasant. It is recognizing reality as it is instead of exhausting ourselves by arguing with it. The moment we stop fighting reality, we regain the energy that was once consumed by resistance. Picture a tree standing in the middle of a powerful storm. If the tree were completely rigid, the force of the wind would eventually break its branches. Instead, the tree bends with each gust. It does not resist the movement of the wind because it understands that flexibility is a form of strength. When the storm passes, the tree remains standing, not because it defeated the wind, but because it learned how to move with it. Human beings often believe strength means refusing to bend. We tell ourselves to keep fighting, to never let go, and to never change direction. While determination is valuable, there are moments when wisdom asks us to loosen our grip instead of tightening it. Some doors close because they have already served their purpose. Some people leave because their role in our journey has been completed. Some dreams fade because they are making room for something we could never have imagined before. There is another truth that can easily be overlooked. Everything we fear losing exists within the law of impermanence. Relationships change. Success comes and goes. Youth fades. Seasons pass. If this is true, then the difficult moments we experience are also temporary. The sadness you feel today will not remain forever. The anxiety that keeps you awake tonight will eventually soften. Just as joy does not last forever, neither does suffering. When we begin seeing life through this perspective, our relationship with change slowly transforms. We stop asking how to prevent every ending and start asking what each ending is teaching us. We become less afraid of uncertainty because we realize that every meaningful chapter of our lives began with something unknown. Every friendship started with a stranger. Every skill began with inexperience. Every sunrise emerged from the darkness of night. Perhaps there is something in your own life that you have been holding on to for far too long. Rather than judging yourself, simply notice it with compassion. Notice how much energy it requires. Notice how often your thoughts return to it. Then gently ask yourself whether holding on is truly protecting your peace or quietly taking it away. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not holding on for one more day. Sometimes it is trusting that life knows how to carry you forward once you finally open your hand. In the next part of our journey, we will explore what the Buddha truly meant by letting go and discover why releasing attachment is not about losing everything you love. It is about creating the inner freedom to love life without fear. When people first hear the phrase "let go," many immediately misunderstand its meaning. Some believe it means giving up. Others imagine it requires abandoning their dreams, distancing themselves from the people they love, or becoming emotionally cold. This misunderstanding has caused many to overlook one of the most liberating teachings in Buddhism. The Buddha never encouraged people to stop caring about life. He encouraged them to stop clinging to it. There is an important difference between caring and clinging. Caring comes from love, while clinging comes from fear. When we care for someone, we wish for their happiness, even if life eventually takes them in a different direction. When we cling, we try to hold them in place because we believe our own happiness depends on them remaining exactly as they are. One approach creates peace, the other creates suffering. Imagine holding a small bird that has landed in your hands. If your hands remain open and gentle, the bird feels safe. It may stay for a while, and when it eventually flies away, you can appreciate the beauty of having shared that moment. But if you close your hands tightly because you fear losing it, the very thing you wanted to protect begins to suffer. Life often responds in the same quiet way. The tighter we try to possess people, experiences, or outcomes, the more tension we create within ourselves and within our relationships. The Buddha understood that attachment grows from the illusion that lasting happiness can be found in things that are constantly changing. We look to success, believing it will finally make us feel complete. We look to relationships, hoping they will remove every feeling of loneliness. We look to possessions, expecting them to provide lasting security. For a brief time, these things may bring joy, but because they are all impermanent, they cannot provide permanent peace. This does not mean we should reject the beautiful experiences that life offers. On the contrary, Buddhist wisdom encourages us to appreciate them more deeply. The difference is that we learn to enjoy them without demanding that they last forever. A sunset is beautiful precisely because it does not remain in the sky all night. Cherry blossoms are treasured because they bloom for only a short season. Their impermanence does not reduce their beauty. It is what makes them precious. Many of our struggles begin when we refuse to accept this truth. We expect every joyful season to continue indefinitely. We become angry when people change, when circumstances shift, or when life follows a path different from the one we carefully imagined. Yet reality has never promised permanence. The river keeps flowing whether we wish it to stop or not. Fighting against that flow only leaves us exhausted. Consider a person standing in the middle of a river, desperately trying to stop the current with their hands. No matter how strong they are, the water continues moving. Eventually their arms become tired, not because the river is cruel, but because they were trying to resist something far greater than themselves. Now imagine that same person choosing to float instead of fight. The river has not changed, but their experience of it has completely transformed. The struggle disappears. The moment resistance ends. This is what the Buddha meant by letting go. It is not changing the river. It is changing the way we relate to it. When we stop insisting that life unfold according to our expectations, we discover a remarkable freedom. We still make wise decisions. We still pursue meaningful goals. We still love deeply and work with dedication. But we no longer believe our peace depends on controlling every outcome. We learn to do our best while accepting that the final result is influenced by countless causes beyond our control. This way of living brings a quiet confidence. You begin trusting yourself rather than demanding certainty from the world. Instead of asking whether everything will happen exactly as planned, you ask whether you can meet whatever happens with wisdom and compassion. That single shift changes everything. Fear slowly gives way to trust, and anxiety begins to lose its grip on the heart. There is a saying often associated with Buddhist practice: open hands can receive what closed fists never will. A closed fist symbolizes attachment, fear, and resistance. Open hands represent acceptance, gratitude, and trust. When your hands are open, life is free to come and go naturally. You appreciate what arrives, and when something leaves, you allow it to go with grace instead of bitterness. Perhaps there is an area of your life where you have been holding on too tightly. It could be an expectation that keeps leading to disappointment. It could be an old regret that no longer serves you. It could even be the image of the person you think you should have become by now. Rather than forcing yourself to release it immediately, begin by softening your grip. Notice that your peace has never depended on possessing any particular outcome. It has always depended on the state of your own mind. The beautiful truth is that letting go does not leave your hands empty. It creates space. Space for new experiences. Space for unexpected opportunities. Space for deeper gratitude. Most importantly, it creates space for the peace that has been waiting beneath your attachment all along. In the next part of our journey, we will discover what begins to happen when we stop forcing life to follow our plans and learn to trust its natural flow. Sometimes the greatest transformations occur, not because we worked harder, but because we finally stepped aside and allowed life to unfold with its own quiet wisdom. There comes a quiet moment in every person's life when they realize that no amount of effort can force a flower to bloom before its season. You can water it, protect it, and give it sunlight, but you cannot rush its unfolding. The same truth applies to our own lives. We can act with wisdom, work with dedication, and love with sincerity, yet there are many things that can only arrive in their own time. The suffering begins when we mistake patience for failure and believe that forcing life will somehow make it unfold more quickly. Modern life teaches us that everything should happen immediately. We expect instant results, instant success, and instant answers. If something takes longer than we hoped, we often assume that something is wrong. We push harder, worry more, and become frustrated when reality refuses to move at the speed of our expectations. Without noticing it, we spend more energy resisting the present than living within it. The Buddha offered a very different perspective. He taught that every event arises through causes and conditions. Just as a seed cannot become a tree overnight, meaningful change also follows its own natural process. Trying to force that process only creates unnecessary suffering. Wisdom is not found in making life move faster. Wisdom is found in learning how to move with life instead of against it. Think about a river flowing toward the ocean. It never argues with the rocks in its path. It does not become angry when the current slows or when the journey takes an unexpected turn. The river simply continues moving, adapting to every obstacle without losing sight of its direction. Sometimes it flows gently around a stone. Sometimes it carves an entirely new path over many years. Its strength comes not from resistance, but from its willingness to keep flowing. There is a lesson hidden inside that image. Many of us believe strength means refusing to change direction. We become attached to a single plan and convince ourselves that happiness exists only if life unfolds exactly as we imagined. When something unexpected happens, we feel defeated because we confuse a change of path with the loss of purpose. Yet life often redirects us toward opportunities we never would have discovered if everything had gone according to plan. Perhaps you can remember a disappointment that later became a blessing. Maybe a job you desperately wanted never came, only for a better opportunity to appear months later. Perhaps a relationship ended, and although the pain felt unbearable at the time, it eventually made room for deeper healing and healthier connections. Looking back, you may realize that what once felt like life falling apart was actually life quietly placing everything where it belonged. This is why Buddhist wisdom encourages trust instead of constant resistance. Trust does not mean believing that every moment will be easy. It means believing that every experience has the potential to teach something valuable. Even painful seasons shape qualities that comfort alone never could. Patience grows during uncertainty. Compassion often grows through suffering. Wisdom is born from learning to see beyond immediate disappointment. When we stop forcing outcomes, something remarkable begins to happen within the mind. Anxiety gradually loses its grip because we no longer believe that everything depends upon our control. We continue making thoughtful decisions, but we release the exhausting need to predict every result. We begin focusing on what we can actually influence: our choices, our attitude, and our response to each moment, while allowing everything else to unfold naturally. Imagine walking through a forest at dawn. A gentle mist covers the path ahead, making it impossible to see the entire journey. If you refuse to take a single step until every turn becomes visible, you will remain standing in the same place. But if you trust the path beneath your feet, each step slowly reveals the next. Life rarely shows us the whole picture at once. It asks only that we take the next mindful step with courage. One of the greatest gifts of letting go is that it allows us to become fully present. Instead of living inside imagined futures, we begin noticing the quiet beauty already surrounding us. The warmth of morning sunlight, the sound of birds singing, the kindness of a stranger, or the peaceful rhythm of our own breathing become reminders that life is happening now, not someday. These simple moments often contain the peace we have been searching for in distant goals. The irony is that many of the best things in life arrive when we stop chasing them so desperately. Genuine friendships develop naturally. Inner peace grows quietly through daily practice. Joy often appears when the mind is no longer demanding that every moment be perfect. By loosening our grip, we become more open to receiving what life has been trying to offer all along. This does not mean becoming passive or abandoning your dreams. Continue working toward what matters to you. Continue showing kindness, learning, and growing. The difference is that your happiness no longer depends entirely on the outcome. You learn to value the journey as much as the destination. Each step becomes meaningful because you are fully awake for it. Perhaps there is something you have been trying to force into existence. Maybe it is a relationship, a career opportunity, or an answer that refuses to come. Instead of asking why it has not happened yet, ask yourself whether life might be inviting you to slow down, breathe, and trust the timing you cannot yet understand. Sometimes what feels like a delay is actually quiet preparation for something far greater than you imagined. In the next part of our journey, we will explore the deep peace that comes from trusting life itself. When we stop measuring every moment against our expectations, we begin discovering a calm that no external circumstance can ever take away. There is a quiet kind of peace that cannot be found through achievement, possessions, or the approval of others. It does not arrive when every problem disappears or when life finally unfolds exactly as we planned. Instead, it appears the moment we stop demanding certainty from a world that has always been uncertain. This is the peace the Buddha pointed toward, a peace that comes not from controlling life, but from learning to trust it. Trusting life does not mean believing that nothing painful will ever happen again. Difficult moments are part of every human journey. People we love will change. Unexpected challenges will arise. Plans will sometimes fail despite our best efforts. Buddhist wisdom does not deny these realities. It simply teaches that our deepest suffering comes from resisting them rather than meeting them with awareness and compassion. Imagine a sailor crossing a vast ocean. The sailor cannot command the wind to blow in the perfect direction every day. Storms will appear without warning, and calm waters will eventually give way to rough waves. A wise sailor does not waste energy becoming angry with the sea. Instead, they learn how to adjust the sails. They understand that while they cannot control the wind, they can always choose how to respond to it. Life asks the same of us. Many people spend years waiting for perfect circumstances before allowing themselves to feel at peace. They tell themselves that they will finally relax once they earn more money, once they find the right relationship, once their worries disappear, or once everything is under control. But each time one problem is solved, another quietly takes its place. Peace remains somewhere on the horizon, always promised but never experienced. The Buddha gently challenged this way of thinking. He encouraged his followers to stop searching for lasting security in things that constantly change. Instead, he pointed inward. He taught that true stability is not found in the world around us, but in the way we meet the world within ourselves. Think of a mountain standing beneath the open sky. Clouds gather around its peak. Rain falls. Snow covers its slopes during winter, and warm sunlight returns in spring. The mountain experiences every season, yet it remains grounded. It does not resist the weather, because it understands that every storm eventually passes. The human heart can become like that mountain. When we develop inner awareness, we no longer panic every time life changes. We still experience sadness, disappointment, and uncertainty, but we are no longer completely carried away by them. We recognize that emotions are visitors rather than permanent residents. They arrive, stay for a while, and eventually move on. This understanding changes the way we experience difficult moments. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we begin asking, "What is this experience trying to teach me?" Instead of seeing every obstacle as evidence that life is against us, we begin seeing challenges as opportunities to develop patience, resilience, and compassion. This shift in perspective does not remove pain, but it transforms our relationship with it. One of the most comforting truths in Buddhism is that nothing remains exactly as it is forever. This means that joy is temporary, but it also means that suffering is temporary. Every difficult season eventually gives way to another. The darkest night slowly welcomes the morning. The longest winter eventually surrenders to spring. Remembering this truth helps us remain patient when life feels uncertain. There is a beautiful story about a monk who carried a small cup wherever he traveled. Each morning he would hold the cup carefully in his hands and silently remind himself that one day it would break. Rather than making him anxious, this practice filled him with gratitude. Because he accepted its impermanence, he appreciated every day he was able to use it. When the cup finally slipped from his hands and shattered, he smiled gently and said that it had simply fulfilled the nature it always possessed. This simple story contains profound wisdom. Everything we love is precious precisely because it is temporary. Every conversation, every sunrise, every embrace, every season of life. When we stop pretending that these moments will last forever, we begin appreciating them far more deeply. Trusting life also means trusting yourself. It means recognizing that you have survived every challenge that once seemed impossible. There were days when you believed you would never recover from heartbreak, disappointment, or uncertainty. Yet here you are. Perhaps you are stronger than your fears have allowed you to believe. The Buddha never promised a life without hardship. He offered something far more valuable. He showed that freedom is possible even in the middle of life's uncertainties. Freedom comes when we stop fighting reality and begin walking alongside it with an open heart. As you reflect on your own journey, notice how often life has surprised you. Some of your greatest blessings probably arrived in ways you never expected. Some endings that once felt devastating later revealed themselves as new beginnings. Looking back, you may realize that life has been quietly guiding you all along, even during the moments when you believed you were completely lost. Perhaps this is what trust truly means. Not believing that everything will happen exactly as you wish, but believing that whatever comes, you have the wisdom, strength, and compassion to meet it with grace. In the final part of our journey, we will bring together everything we have discovered and explore how, once we truly let go, life begins to place each piece exactly where it belongs. As we come to the end of this journey, one truth becomes beautifully clear. Letting go does not mean losing your life. It means finally allowing yourself to live it. For so long, many of us believe that happiness is something we must chase. We imagine that peace will arrive after one more achievement, one more relationship, one more perfect circumstance. We spend years trying to arrange every detail of our lives, convinced that if everything happens according to our plans, then we will finally be able to relax. But life has a quiet way of teaching us otherwise. No matter how carefully we plan, unexpected changes always appear. Doors close without warning. People enter and leave our lives. Opportunities arrive from places we never imagined. Some dreams disappear, while others quietly take their place. At first, these changes may feel unfair, but with time we often realize that life was never working against us. It was simply leading us somewhere we could not yet see. The Buddha taught that wisdom begins when we stop arguing with reality. This does not mean we stop dreaming or working toward meaningful goals. It means we release the belief that our happiness depends on controlling every outcome. We learn to give our best effort while accepting that the results are influenced by countless causes beyond our control. There is something incredibly freeing about this way of living. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase for many miles. At first, you barely notice the weight because you have become accustomed to it. But as the journey continues, your shoulders ache, your arms grow tired, and every step becomes more difficult. Then someone gently asks why you are still carrying it. You stop walking. You place the suitcase on the ground. For the first time in years, your body feels light. The road has not changed. The destination has not changed. Only the burden has changed. This is what letting go feels like. The world around you may remain exactly the same, yet your experience of it becomes completely different. Problems no longer consume every thought. Fear no longer controls every decision. The future no longer feels like something you must constantly defend against. Instead, each day becomes an opportunity to respond with awareness rather than anxiety. One of the greatest gifts of Buddhist wisdom is the understanding that peace is not something waiting for you at the end of the journey. It has always been available in this very moment. The reason we struggle to experience it is because our minds are so often living somewhere else. We replay yesterday's mistakes. We rehearse tomorrow's worries. Meanwhile, the only moment where life is actually happening quietly slips away. When you begin letting go, the present moment becomes enough. A simple walk becomes meaningful. A quiet morning feels like a blessing. A conversation with someone you love becomes something to fully experience instead of something to rush through. Even silence begins to feel comforting rather than empty. This is not because the world has become more peaceful. It is because your heart has. Many people fear that letting go means becoming passive or losing ambition. In reality, the opposite is often true. When the mind is no longer overwhelmed by fear, it sees more clearly. Decisions become wiser because they are no longer driven by desperation. Relationships become healthier because they are built on appreciation instead of attachment. Success becomes more fulfilling because it is no longer carrying the impossible responsibility of defining your worth. You begin trusting yourself in a new way. You realize that you do not need every answer before taking the next step. You do not need every person to understand you. You do not need life to unfold exactly as planned in order to experience gratitude. This quiet confidence cannot be purchased, earned, or given by someone else. It grows naturally when you stop fighting the flow of life and begin walking with it. Perhaps there is still something you are carrying today, a regret that has followed you for years, a relationship that exists only in memory, a fear about the future that steals your peace each morning. If so, do not judge yourself. Every human heart learns this lesson at its own pace. Instead, take one slow breath. Ask yourself whether holding on has truly protected you, or whether it has simply delayed the peace that has been waiting for you all along. You do not have to release everything in a single day. Letting go is not one dramatic moment. It is a quiet practice. It happens every time you choose acceptance over resistance, every time you forgive instead of replaying old pain, every time you trust the present instead of fearing the future. These small choices slowly reshape the way you experience life. One day, you may look back and realize something remarkable. The things you once begged life to keep were never meant to stay forever. The things you feared would destroy you helped you become wiser. The roads you never planned to walk became the ones that transformed you most deeply. And the peace you spent so many years searching for was never waiting somewhere far away. It was patiently waiting beneath your fear, beneath your attachment, and beneath your endless need to control. The moment you finally opened your hands, life had room to place something new within them. So, as you leave this reflection today, carry only one simple thought with you. Trust the journey. Do your best with what this moment asks of you. Love without trying to possess. Work without becoming attached to the result. Accept each season as it comes, knowing that nothing lasts forever, not even your hardest days. When you finally let go, life does not always become easier overnight, but it becomes lighter. And sometimes that lightness is exactly what allows everything to fall into place. If these Buddhist teachings have brought a little more peace to your heart today, consider returning for another quiet journey together. Until then, may you walk gently, live mindfully, and trust that life is unfolding exactly as it needs to, one peaceful step at a time.